South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham joins me now. And Senator, thanks very much for being here. You have been saying throughout this conflict that you are calling for Vladimir Putin to either be arrested or assassinated. Give us your reaction to the events of the morning.
Well, we have industrialized chaos we have chaos on an industrial scale. You've got China saying if you give any weapons to Taiwan, we're coming after you. You've got apparently the Iranians firing at an American base in Erbil, Iraq. You have Afghanistan becoming a new safe haven for terrorists. And you have, I smell a sellout coming when it comes to the Ukraine. Your last guest mentioned neutrality. Well, here's what I would say that Putin wants. He doesn't want a neutral Ukraine. He wants to eradicate Ukraine. If you don't believe me, listen to him. He gave a speech last year where he talked about not only taking the Ukraine, but Moldova, Georgia, all the regions surrounding Russia to recreate the former Soviet Union. So I will be dead set against any deal that requires the Ukrainian people to recognize half of the Ukraine belongs to Russia by force of arms. And if there's any chemical weapons used by Putin, that would be a war crime, and I would be supportive of a no-fly zone as a response to that. You see war crimes being committed in front of you on television every day, and the Biden administration looks at Putin as a partner for climate change and an Iran deal maker rather than a war criminal. Biden's more afraid of Putin losing than he is excited about Ukraine winning, and let you hear it from me. Victory for Ukraine.
Well, why? Why is this strategy a slow walk in terms of helping Ukraine? Can't the U.S. and NATO allies do more?
Yeah.
Without turning this into World War III?
We could if we had a... Well, it's not going to be World War III. You know, this is all a bluff. Putin knows that no one wins a nuclear exchange. So if he ordered a preemptive strike on the United States, some general would shoot him in the head. I'm calling for the crushing of the Russian economy. Even though our war and fight is not with the Russian people, it is with Putin. And the only way this war ends is with Putin either going to jail or be taken out by his own people. How do you make that happen? You help the Ukrainians. They need MiGs. It is deplorable to me, dishonorable, that we would not give 28 fighter jets to the Ukrainians to defend their skies against Russian aggression. The Biden administration stopped that transfer. 1 minute they're saying they're not using the planes we have, but if we give them more, it'd be World War III. So what happened is that Putin threatened Biden, and he folded like a cheap suit. Give them the planes. The speech in Poland by the vice president is not an adequate substitute by MiGs going into the Ukraine to help the Ukrainians defend themselves. So I'm all in. I don't want no boots on the ground, no fly zone yet. But if there are chemical weapons used by Putin, that's a war crime, then I support a no-fly zone.
Let me get your take on the Israeli component here. Israeli Prime Minister Bennett spoke with Vladimir Putin, spoke with President Zelensky.
Yeah.
Tell me about the Israelis' component and why they're weighing in and what the chessboard is, including Israel.
Well, here's Israel's chessboard. Syria is occupied by Russia. They have Hezbollah and Iranian elements in Syria that threaten the state of Israel. Apparently, they got an agreement with Russia to hit inside of Syria. Israel does, and they're worried about that. I understand that. I talked to the Israeli embassy. They adamantly denied that they put any pressure on Zelensky to accept an unacceptable deal. I will accept them at their word, but they have been slow, in my view, way too even-handed here. Switzerland, for God's sakes, is all in for the Ukraine. I understand Israel's position, and how does this end? It cannot end with the sellout of Ukraine. It cannot end where we give half of the Ukraine to Putin, because what he will do is consolidate his power, and a year or two from now, take the rest, because he doesn't want a buffer from NATO. He wants to reconstruct the Soviet Union. That is his ambition, and we can stop him. If we go all in to crush the Russian economy, if we help the Ukrainians with the weapons they need, we should be taking every former Soviet bloc country with S-100, S-200, S-300 anti-aircraft missile systems and flood them into the Ukraine to regain control of Ukrainian skies. I think the Ukrainians can win, But what breaks my heart is it appears to me that Biden is more worried about Putin losing than Ukraine winning, and that is despicable and sad.
So you think this is a sellout of Ukraine, both the Biden administration as well as the Israelis potentially wanting to see Ukraine taken down?
Well, you know, I'm not saying that about Israel. I'm saying they have discussions with Putin. He's a war criminal. He wants all of Ukraine eventually, and he will take it if we don't stop him here. So I'm not suggesting that Israel's selling out the Ukraine. I am suggesting that the Biden administration has no stomach for this fight. The reason they're slow-walking military aid to the Ukrainians is they never expected Putin to lose, and they can't embrace the idea that he would lose. He's a climate change partner. He is an Iran deal maker in the eyes of the Biden administration. In my eyes, he's a menace to mankind. He's a war criminal, and he needs to be taken out by his own people. If we spent more time thinking about how to help Ukraine win than worrying about how to keep Putin in power, we would be better off. As to my Israeli friends, I understand you have a problem in Syria. I've been one of your biggest champions, but what I hope the world will do is speak with one voice that Putin is a war criminal. He's no longer a legitimate leader, and it is time for us to get him gone. It'd be better to have a Russian leader that wouldn't marry up with Iran and Syria to begin with. This is the best chance in 20 years to take this guy out, and the Russian people are the vehicle to do it.
Senator, thank you. Thank you very much. Senator Lindsey Graham joining us this morning. Thank you, sir.